Okay. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. We've got a nice collection of folks in the Sangha today. This is Journey Home Meditation's morning sit, coming from the Beside Meditation Hall in Southern Oregon. So thanks for joining us in the space, and thank you for joining us wherever you are joining us from online today. My name is Michael. I'm going to be taking us through our daily practice of conscious breathing, a little bit of meditative practices, and some contemplation and poetry. So come on in, have a seat. You can be seated as I am on a pillow or mattress or blanket. I have a small pillow underneath my butt as well. It really helps to elevate the body, putting the hips in line with or above the knees allows you to sit more comfortably for a longer period of time. So I recommend doing that. But whatever it is you need to do for your body to find its comfortable position to facilitate breath this morning. This whole practice is a practice of devotion to breath. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and just give a few moments to feeling our breath and becoming aware of how our body is responding and reacting to the breath moving in and out today. It's not something we spend a lot of thought on throughout our day, but taking these few moments can be really helpful and really beneficial to our ability to know what we're carrying in the world today, because it's our body, it's our ability to respond and react to others throughout our day that comes from what we are holding inside right now. So just a few moments together. I'll invite the bell. So when you're doing this practice, paying attention to any tight places, any stuck places in your body when you're breathing in. If you have a small feeling of pain or discomfort somewhere in your torso, in your chest, in your stomach, your lower back, upper back, wherever it may be as you're breathing in or breathing out, we want to bring our attention now to those places. That tightness, that tension, that's the voice of the body. That's the body's wisdom trying to give us information. And I think most of our culture has designed our interactions to dissociate us from our body, especially from our uncomfortable feelings. But it's our discomfort that clues us in, gives us intuition, and guides us on where to go throughout our day. So when we're dissociated from our bodies, we make decisions and choices in our day that are actually detrimental to ourselves. We eat foods that don't nourish us, but give us anxiety. We participate in physical relationships or interactions with people that otherwise we wouldn't do if we didn't have a sense of dissociation from our bodies. We work way longer than we should in our days and work harder than our bodies want to, and then we are sore at the end of the day. We wake up in pain. All of these things, all of these ways that we dissociate from our bodies lead us away from who we are, and as we do that, we end up feeling these feelings of abandonment. I think abandonment is one of the core feelings of loneliness that we experience in this world, and loneliness is one of the largest epidemics in our country right now. But that abandonment begins when we begin to abandon ourselves. We abandon our own bodies, we abandon our own thoughts and our own emotional bodies. So this practice that we do each morning is a practice of reuniting with our body, with our emotions, with our thoughts, and we bring those all together. And we do that in a kind, loving, and gentle way. So finding those stuck places in your body, that place of tension, anxiety, fear, pain, those uncomfortable feelings, and then we breathe gently into them. So we're going to move into an intentional breathing practice, and this practice is breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, as if you're pulling the air all the way down right through your body into the earth. This is what it really means to have a deep breath. When I say take a deep breath, what do? Most people generally gulp at the air like they're drowning. But that just incites more anxiety in our body. That gives us the feeling that we're not getting enough. So a deep breath goes deep into the body. It reaches into those deep places, down low. And that pulls our diaphragm downward, and that helps create relaxation and calm in the body. So breathing in through the nose helps make the diaphragm do a little extra work as it pulls downward. And that stretch, that feeling of slight tension in the body actually helps us to release tension. So we're going to breathe in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, and then when we release all of the breath slowly and really contract the body, pushing all of the air out. I'll illustrate just a little bit with a little bit of exaggeration to give you an example. So we breathe in through the nose. The belly fills, not the chest. And we release. And at the end of the release, just hold for a moment. Then breathe in. Hold. And release. So join with me in those breaths, breathing in. Hold. Release. Hold. Breathing in. Hold. Release. Hold. Breathing in. Hold. Release. Find your own rhythm. We'll just have a few moments of silent breath. The way we hold our bodies helps indicate a lot of what we're experiencing as well. So paying attention to how you might be holding your shoulders or your hands. And this is going to give you an invitation into processing and feeling what it is that you're holding inside of your body. If your shoulders are hunched down and forward, this is a position of defensiveness and protection. We're protecting those internal parts of our body. So we may feel a little insecure in that moment. But shifting your own body just a little bit, opening that shoulder just a little bit, lifting that chin up, and taking just a few breaths, notice how that will shift the way you might be thinking about yourself or the way you might be feeling, your emotional place in yourself, as that breath gets facilitated in a different way. One thing I do is I rest with my hands, palms up, because that little bit of turn in my arms opens my shoulder blades just a little bit, bringing them together in the back and rolls that shoulder open, and it really helps facilitate the breathing. Takes the weight off of your lungs as your body pulls that air in. So give it a shot. Just a few breaths in and out. Notice if you're holding tension in your knees, your lower back. And when you breathe in, breathe as if you're inflating a balloon in that tension. And then you breathe out, imagine that tension just going away like the air leaving a balloon. Now, you may not be experiencing everything in a blissful way. As we open up our reception to our body, you may start to feel uncomfortable things that start coming up. Uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable thoughts. It's okay, you can sit with those. You're in a safe place right now, and breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly is reminding your body that you're in a safe place. It's comforting and bringing your central nervous system into relaxation. But coming into relaxation means that some of those subtle voices that you've been holding back or repressing might want to come up. And this is part of this practice. We do this as a practice so that we can practice allowing ourselves to release ourselves and liberate ourselves from the repression that we hold into our body every day. Having these few silent moments, finding stillness in the body is a way to allow those subtle, more quiet voices to be heard. Sometimes it'll come out in a quiver in your chin or a bit of a cry. Sometimes it'll be a laugh. Sometimes it'll come out as a movement of anxiety that's just escaping your body. Whatever it is, you can sit with it right now. You're okay. If you start to feel like it's too much for you, just open your eyes, move your body, and change your thoughts. Think about anything else. But for right now, this is a practice of showing up for yourself. Right now, you are not your own worst enemy, you are your own best friend. So be kind and gentle. And when you're ready, you can shift your body position just a bit. Move the shoulders, move the hands and the feet. Get some of that stuck energy that may have come out in that breathing practice. Just let it process and move through the body. All right. I had a person ask me in a meditation that I was leading. She said, "Why is it you're always talking about the feelings that come up, and why is it I always experience the things that come up as these negative things? These, I get feelings of sadness come up, or anger, pain." I said, I think that the reason that is that many of us are sort of trained into expressing our positive feelings pretty easily. When something is funny, we laugh. When we feel good, we smile. We have these ways to interact with others where positivity is encouraged. We're encouraged to smile even when we don't feel like smiling. So we have these expressions of these emotions that are easy to feel, and these things that we've labeled as positive. But the things that we've labeled as negative, those uncomfortable feelings, we tend to push those down. Sadness being a major one that we push down. Fear, feelings of pain or discomfort. And I think the reason that we do that is how much we have an active participation in our emotions. So laughter is an active emotion. I'm actively laughing. Anger is even an active emotion. We don't always repress our anger because we have a culture that somewhat allows us to express anger. Especially our smaller cultures, the cultures of our families. Many of us come from homes or families where it's not uncommon to hear an argument or a fight or to express anger. Not all of us, though. Some of us, that's absolutely not allowed. But whatever it is, that active participation in anger makes our relationship to it different. But sadness and feelings of abandonment or rejection, feelings of fear, these are passive feelings. These are feelings that we become the passive recipient of these things. Something makes us sad. Something makes us scared. Something causes us harm. Something abandons us, and we feel powerless in that relationship. I didn't choose for you to break up with me. You chose that. So I'm the abandoned one. I'm passive. And I think that when something is passive in that way, it becomes easier to repress and suppress, to push down into our bodies and swallow it and hold it in and not share it with others, because we equate passivity to weakness. When somebody says they are a pacifist, we joke about them being weak. Like in The Big Lebowski, Walter says that. He says he's told Donnie's a pacifist. He says he has problems. He says, well, other than pacifism? But we joke and we characterize passivity as weakness, as the thing that receives as being weaker than the thing that gives or the thing that causes. So the prey is weaker than the predator in this sense. And this is the way we characterize a lot of our relationship to our emotions. So there's built-in and inherent shame or embarrassment about passive feelings. And so we repress those. But I think that a lot of this comes from our relationship to presence, to what it means to be present in the moment with what you're feeling, to be able to show up and arrive. And Presence is the first act of courage when someone is afraid. Right? When you're afraid of something, courage simply means showing up first. Just being present with it. And courage is a way that we characterize somebody that's strong. Somebody that's protecting something. Those are courageous people. And so the invitation, I think, when we start to do these practices and we start to recognize that there's these emotions that want to come up that I've been repressing, most often those are going to be difficult or uncomfortable emotions, even if we characterize them as positive emotions in some ways. But sometimes the feeling of joy is one that we are uncomfortable feeling. If you come from a relationship where people say, "What are you smiling about?" We may learn from a young age not to be happy, not to be joyful in front of others, because it might be a target for bullying or deemed a weakness in our own perception. So when we're doing this practice of reassociating with our bodies through the breath, what we're doing is we're arriving with presence for whatever it is. So this practice is inherently a courageous practice. Because my conscious mind doesn't always know what it's going to encounter in my subconscious, which is the mind of my body. I don't know what's going to come out. I don't know what things that I've buried deep that work their way to the surface in that breathing practice. So just showing up with those few breaths is already an act of strength and courage. And I encourage you to remember that. Especially on the days, if you decide to start doing this practice daily, on the days that you are already sitting down feeling uncomfortable or not well, to remember that this practice is a practice that is strengthening you. This is a practice that is making you strong, not in a way to be dominant or controlling, but a way to be courageous and steadfast and protective. This is a protective practice. This is a way we learn how to give love to those places inside of us that we've fed with shame for so long. So the answer to the question is, why does it always seem to be the negative things that come up? I guess the short answer is because you view what you hold negatively. But the long answer is, why do you view what you hold in a negative light? What is it that's negative about this thing that's inside of you? And how can we shift our relationship to that from negative to difficult? Because I can't do negative things very well, but I can do difficult things with practice. I can do that. And that's why we call this a practice. Let's get into our poem today. Okay, so we are working through Appalachian Elegy. It's a 66-part poem by bell hooks. Each poem is just numbered 1 through 66. They're not titled, and so that tells us that this is all the parts of a whole. The way that we are doing this is we are not reading ahead. I'm not reading ahead each day. So each day I'm reading a piece that's new to me as well, and I don't know if it necessarily has anything to do with what we've been talking about, but we've been finding what we've been referring to in Journey Home Meditation as the bell hook's magic. Because magically, she somehow has written this book that each day that poem is relevant to what we're talking about. So, let's see. We're on number 31 today. Returning to sacred places where all is one, embraced belonging, an intense field of possibility, wondrous goodness fills the air. Grant us, great spirits, another chance to reclaim and nurture earth. glorious sky, divine water, in every day the blessing of weather offering change, a constant passing of life into death and back again. I'll read it one more time. Anybody hear the way that was absolutely relevant to the contemplation today and what we're talking about? Is anybody picking up on that? I'll read it again. Returning to sacred places where all is one, embraced belonging, an intense field of possibility, wondrous goodness fills the air. Grant us, great spirits, another chance to reclaim and nurture earth. Glorious sky, divine water, in every day the blessing of weather offering change, a constant passing of life into death and back again. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear how that relates to exactly what I'm practicing in my own body, this returning to sacred place where all is one, embraced belonging. That word belonging is at the core of the human condition. I think I spent a lot of my life feeling like I didn't belong. I spent a lot of my life feeling like I didn't belong in my family, like I wasn't one of them. I spent a lot of my life absolutely understanding that I did not belong in school. I didn't belong in church. And it became this mission of mine to find where I belonged. It was kind of like Gonzo in Muppets in Space. Did anybody see Muppets in Space? It was one of my favorite as a kid. But he's different than everyone, and he's looking for his people, looking for where he belongs. And I happened to find that, at a relatively young age, about 13, 14 years old. I found punk rock, and I found live punk rock shows and a community of people making punk rock music and hip hop and skateboarding and graffiti and all those things. And all of a sudden I found a room full of misfits and people who didn't belong as well. So my belonging was in those who did not belong. And we belonged together. And that taught me pretty quickly that if I feel like I don't belong, I'm going to go ahead and imagine that maybe you sometimes feel like you don't belong. And if you feel like you don't belong and I feel like I don't belong, then we both belong in that moment. There's people that feel what I feel. And I think that that's been a truth across the board for me, that every human I've ever known has a secret question of whether or not I belong here. And everything that we do in our actions and inactions is relative to how much we feel like we belong in any moment. So returning to sacred places where all is one, embraced belonging, that feeling of belonging, man, that's amazing. When she says, glorious sky, divine water, in every day the blessing of weather offering change, a constant passing of life into death and back again. I mean, that's the recognition that no matter where you are right now, it's changing. It's changing, it's shifting. And this practice, I think, does anybody else here ever feel like you are trying to live Groundhog Day? You have to be the same every day. You have to fit, a social profile where even if I don't feel like being angry about something, if my friends think I should be angry about this because I was angry about it yesterday, then I'm going to be angry about it today. Or again, this all comes back to our sense of belonging. We wake up in the morning and we put on the same outfits not because it's necessarily what we want to wear, but it's kind of what we expect ourselves to wear, or we do the same thing. We have the same conversations and all these things because there's safety in that. But there's also a feeling of longing that comes from that, and a feeling of relief when something comes along and creates a change. I know when COVID happened, there was a lot of people expressing a huge amount of relief for the societal upheaval and the change of our daily program. I know that the earth was really grateful that all of a sudden there was, 50% less driving occurring, and the air started to clear, and the waters and the rivers started to be cleaner, and I think that for a lot of people, the anxiety of not knowing how to maintain their lives the same every day was difficult for them. But when they could release into opening to this change, it became a revelation. So I think that's what Bell Hooks is talking about. But I want to hear what you all have to say. How was your practice today? Fire. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you want to discuss? No?
I think I figured out why it's hard.
You figured out why it's hard?
Yeah, because it's since I'm autistic, it forces me to not mask, and that's really uncomfortable.
I wonder how that relationship from being forced to not mask into being invited to let down your mask, how that could shift over time. Yeah.
It feels dangerous to not mask.
Yeah. Is there a level of relief as well?
I don't know yet.
All right. I mean, maybe not. There doesn't have to be. It's again, I think we often characterize these practices as self-help, and we're getting better. I'm improving every day. But the reality is, it's not about getting better. It's about getting better at feeling who you are. That's one of our mottos, is that if we want to feel better, we have to get better at feeling. That means to feel better, I have to be able to feel sad really well. I have to get good at being sad. I have to get good at being miserable. Because when I feel miserable and I'm not any good at it, I'll do anything I can to not feel that way. And that becomes really dangerous. Yeah. Or worse. Yeah. Well, thank you all for being here today. Yeah. It's really good to see all your faces in here this morning and share these practices with you all. I look forward to building a relationship with this practice with you if you're interested. So, come back. Yeah. And I want to say thanks to everybody out here who's been listening and participating. I'm being told in the chat that it's hard to hear. Are you still having difficulty hearing? Let me check my audio just to make sure. Are you still having difficulty hearing everything that's coming through? I don't know. But thank you very much for being here, everyone. Remember to share and tag a friend in this practice, and come over to Substack. Create a free Substack account and subscribe there. It's free, and it's a great platform that gets us away from the tainted algorithms of social media. All right. Hariom.